This is Module 2, Ecosystem Services for Climate Change Impact. In this section, we'll talk about ecosystem services and their response to climate change. This is the second module of a series of climate change impact and adaptation module. There are 4 parts which will be delivered in this chapter, which are ecosystem and their services. In this section, we will try to understand the importance of ecosystem services and their potential losses due to climate change impacts. Forests and biodiversity. In the topic of forests and biodiversity, we will try to determine how the climate change affected ecosystem services, agriculture, and food security. In this section, the issue of climate change affected ecosystem services in relation to agriculture and food security will be elaborated. And 4, hydrology and water resources. Last but not least, it is also very important to determine climate change affected ecosystem services in terms of hydrology and water resources. Coastal area which is influenced by marine processes has a very potential ecosystem services. In the same time, it is also has big potential of loss due to climate change. Several examples exhibit the loss are: the movement of salt water into wetlands increases as sea level rises. Thus, it is affected the balance of coastal erosion sedimentation and fauna migration. For instance, the species of depurpurating andromous and catadromous fish. Coastal area also highly susceptible to temperature change. Thus, ecosystems such as coral reefs, which is very sensitive to changing temperature, have to experience the threat of coral bleaching. Furthermore, higher seawater temperature causes the very fundamental seagrass, Posidonia oceanica, in the Mediterranean Sea to couple its long lifespan as its self-recovery goes slow under an increasing temperature. Ecosystem plays important roles and does matter to environment. The services offered by ecosystem vary enormously. For instance, forests can provide timber. At the very same time, it buffers soil erosion, absorbs pollutants in the air, provide habitats for various flora and fauna, maintain soil nutrients, offer aesthetic, and so forth. In terms of regional development, a well-managed ecosystem is also very important. As a matter of fact, a natural-based development isn't bothered by economic bubble. Thus, a long ecosystem is well managed. It can be counted on job provision and economic opportunities. Ecosystem services are defined as what people can get from nature. According to the Millennium Ecosystem Assessment, there are several functions of ecosystem for environment. In terms of provisioning services, ecosystem will provide water, food, fresh air, and fuel. In terms of regulating services, ecosystem will provide climate and weather regulation, for example, season and fruits pollination. In relation to supporting services, it will help soil formation, nutrient cycling, and self-purification. And in relation to cultural services, it will provide aesthetic and cultural value, for instance, through tourism. Forest, which is capable of sustaining biodiversity, is somehow simply understood as a resource for fuel and food. Here are other examples of its ecosystem services as well as the biodiversities. Carbon sequestration highly depends on above-ground biomass, thus ensuring changes in species composition significantly alter it. Bunker et al., 2005. Tropical forest fragments provide various species of wild bees to increase the amount and stability of pollination services on nearby coffee crops, more efficient than managed bee. Ricketts, 2004. Traditional and niche ranching market depends on forage, which are efficiently produced in unmanaged annual grassland and oak savanna. Ackerley et al. 2012. Greater conifer diversity returned to pre-drought productivity levels much faster than the poor species stands. De Klerk et al. 2006. Agriculture provides maintenance of the genetic diversity, which is essential for many aspects, which are successful crop and animal breeding, nutrient cycles, for example, nitrogen, biological control of pests and disease, erosion control and sediment movement, soil and sediment movement. In global scale, agriculture also has roles in water purification and atmospheric gases regulation. In general, climate change modifies hydrological cycles. Therefore, in some places, the issue of water availability subjected to flash flood or prolonged droughts. Staudinger et al. 2012. Climate change, especially in marginal areas, exacerbates degradation of land resources through soil erosion, salinization through groundwater over-extraction, dry land overgrazing, and existing socio-economic stressor, and etc. IPCC 2007. Currently, 850 million people in the world are still undernourished. FAO 2003. Moreover, socio-economic pressure over the next decades will lead to increased competition between irrigation needs and demands from non-agricultural sector. It potentially reduces the availability and quality of water resources for food. IPCC 2008. In relation to hydrology and water resources, there are some issues expected from water-related ecosystem services. In order to have a holistic understanding, we will divide the function into four main categories of function, which are provisioning, regulating, supporting, and cultural services. The following table will show us more detail about what to expect from water-related ecosystem services. In terms of provisioning services, water, either its amount and its quality, is very important to determine its purposes. There are many purposes of water which are, for instance, for drinking water, domestic use, agriculture use, and industrial use. Water is also an important resource for non-consumptive use, such as for hydroelectric power plant and navigation or transportation. Furthermore, it is also very obvious that water is a required medium for aquatic organisms which will provide food and medicine as its products. The following map shows us the distribution of precipitation anomalies in the world. As you can see in the map, the bigger the green circle, the more positive the precipitation anomalies, 0 to 100%. The bigger the red circle, the more negative the precipitation anomaly, from 0 to 100%. Many natural systems upon which the hydrological cycles and thus water availability, water quality, and water services depend on being affected by anthropogenic climate change from IPCC 2007. The expected impact of climate change on water resources include the expectation of much greater hydrological variability in the form of more floods, longer and more severe drought, storm, glacial melts, greater evapotranspiration, and exacerbation of pollution and waterborne disease. The function and operation of existing water infrastructure will be affected. IPCC 2008. Now, after hearing this presentation, there are several reviews questions to be answered in order to achieve a comprehensive understanding related to ecosystem and their services. 1. How do you describe ecosystem services? 2. Why ecosystem services are important? 3. How climate change alters ecosystem services provided by forest and biodiversity. 4. Describe the relationship between depleting ecosystem services in agricultural landscape and food insecurity. And 5. Explain the loss of water-related ecosystem services due to climate change.